Another show, another topic, mashup. We're coming to you from the Golden Tulip Hotel. I have a panel of eager guests who are ready to discuss everything from unrealistic expectations, especially when the exam season is wrapping up, to the middle class nightmare. Yeah, that and much more is coming up. But first, meet my guests. Mwende Ngao is a producer, director, lifestyle blogger, and founder of Kike Tele, a social enterprise that seeks to create a women-centered community to foster change through honest and empowering conversations. Magunga Williams is a writer behind the blog The Magunga that tells true and fictional stories on life. From bachelorhood to poetry to travel, Magunga's got all the bases covered. Mugethi Gitau is a techie and a creative geek, as she likes to refer to herself. She's a passionate writer of short stories, and you can find her musings on her blog, Miss Mugethi. Remember, hashtag Victoria's Lounge is how you can chime into the conversation on social media. Now, this was interesting. Came across a blog by the broke billionaire, and he was talking about the middle class nightmare. And I was reading through it and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, he's literally retelling the life of so many Kenyans, not me, but so many Kenyans, you know, who have literally built their lives on debt when you think about it. You know, you get a huge loan to get a big house, a big car to kind of show off and get jobs or a wife or a husband. So we're literally living out a facade, you know, when you think about it. But I don't know what you guys, your thoughts, I'll start with you, Magunga, on this nightmare that we've created.
Well, I don't think it's a nightmare really, because the way many people's economy is set up, you can't buy everything. You can't buy a car, you can't buy a house. So you have to buy it on debt. You have to buy some, because some of these things are necessary to make life easier. So yeah, there are people who accumulate too much debt on material things, but at the end of the day, I feel like if it's their debt and they're able to pay it, then that's up to them. So
it's mainly off of necessity. They're doing it because you need these things.
Yeah, there are things that you need. Yeah, that you need to be in a house. So if you're going to get
the mortgage and all those things.
Yeah, if you don't want to rent, if you want to own your house, you'll get into a mortgage. If your job requires you to be mobile, you need a car. If you don't have the money to buy a car.
And it was interesting because even in the article he talked about having to get a cab until he got the car, and I'm thinking, my goodness, that is just too much money that you're having to spend. But there's also that aspect of keeping up appearances beyond you getting a loan for whatever you may need to build your life. So what's your take, Mugethi, on that?
I think it's sad if you do it to impress people or if you do it to keep up with people. If you're living your life feeling like you're in competition with so and so and you need to keep up with them. But if you're doing it because these are the things that matter to you, then great. Like for me, I know I have some things that I can give up and some things that I cannot give up. Maybe I want to live in a certain place, but I'm happy not to have any expendable income after that. Then that works for me. But if I'm doing it because my friend who went to campus with me has bought a new car and I must get a new car now, then I mean really, that's a sad life.
Yeah. I mean, have you noticed that one day? I mean, in terms of people you interact with or maybe work with, that there is that aspect of keeping up with the Joneses, you know, keeping up a certain lifestyle so you can get into a certain club or taking your kids to a certain school. Because even in the article he talked about once you get that bigger job, you can now take your kids to a private school somewhere and you're paying ridiculous amounts of money. A lot of people are actually willing to do that just to keep up this life.
Yeah,
Are you seeing a lot of that?
Definitely. That is, I think it's definitely there. I've seen that where people have a big car and then they're probably living in a really small house. And when you go to their house, they literally don't have, seriously, they don't have anything in the house. They don't even have a fridge, they don't have a cooker, but outside they have a really big car parked. And so that tells you about their priorities. I think also there is a certain pressure especially for, I guess, the younger generation.
Yeah.
Because when my parents were my age, they had achieved so much. And that was a different time when economies world over were different, where you'd find that people in the 20s were able to have kids and have a stable family and all that. And so now it's much more difficult to sort of achieve the same things at that age.
Yeah.
So when people get a snippet of some cash, they sort of, go all out.
Yeah.
I'd say, of course, we kind of maybe need to think more about savings, but I don't know.
I mean, I'm just wondering, when did that start? Because, like you said, when our parents managed to live, good enough lives, raise us, take us to good schools and everything, is it a generational thing? Because now you're dealing with millennials who want that instant gratification and at any cost. So we're seeing more and more people now, we kind of constitute that middle class who, I want to live in a good place, I want to drive a good car, I want my kids to be able to have great education. So why not? Why am I being denied this? Because right now I can't afford it. If I can get a loan that can accommodate that, is it because now we're dealing with a different generation who want things now?
I don't feel like there is anything new that's about people who always do things to please other people. I think it's something that has always existed. Perhaps maybe we are noticing it more now because there are so many lenses to look through life, social media, all these kind of things. But I don't think, I want to believe that our parents also went through that kind of phase.
And pressure, but they were able to kind of deal with it.
Yeah, that need to, to always have something better, like the next person. It's okay. Maybe we used to hear about it a lot from our moms. When you see another lady dressed better, you want to. If you see shoes, and even with dudes, if you see if you feel intimidated by another person's car or the neighborhood where they live, there's always that. I don't think it's something new. I feel like it's something that that we want to pretend that we are noticing now. It's not new. It's always been there.
It's always been there. I mean, you're right, because even in terms of the pressure, and the guy even wrote about it, the pressure to get married and settle down, and now you're thinking, oh my goodness, I have to now put up a huge ratio and all this money I'm spending to put it on Instagram. Again, it's this facade, and for what reason are you even settling down? Why are you getting married? And then you have people who are in marriages and relationships which are solely for social media. And there's nothing really beyond that. You're wondering, like, okay, the past generation, the older generation were able to stay together 20, 30, 40 years, and now people are getting divorces like it's, So, I mean, do you think that's also informing it, the fact that we're trying to keep up appearances or keep up something for social media?
Yeah, I think the social media is definitely a big factor. And I think, while Magunga nailed it, it's human to be aspirational. It's human to want better than what your parents could provide for you and to want your child to have better. But then the fact that now there's this scrutiny on social media, I think a lot of people are now feeling the peer pressure. Because, because now there's this platform that everyone can access where you can put out your business. And in terms of relationships, there's people whose relationships are solely or just on social media, and that's a lot of pressure, and it's hard for a lot of relationships to withstand that. I think now we've had social media for long enough, and it's time for us to say, okay, now this thing has been here for a while, it's going to be here for a long time, can we just live our lives, despite it? Yeah.
I mean, and it's really superficial, and you think about now what's the trade-off, something like that. He wrote about debt, alcohol, divorce, no family. I mean, you literally have lost everything that you built up because you're trying to kind of keep up this lifestyle for others to approve of. And I know later on the show we'll talk about that, those unrealistic expectations sometimes we put on ourselves or on others. But it's not until you get the wake-up call of those bad things happening that you realize, oh, wait a minute, I probably should have gone about life very differently than I did, and we're finding a lot of people who are exhibiting those things now, probably drinking a bit too much, the marriage breaks up and everything. But is that now the picture of the middle class in Kenya? Is that now what we're kind of paying for because of having lived this life that really was not real. Are you seeing that? Or is it just this one guy's isolated case that we're seeing?
I don't think like it's like the full picture of the middle class. I think maybe it's the most seen, or most vocal, you could say, picture of the middle class. I wouldn't pretend that I also don't feel that pressure. There is pressure, definitely, to succeed and to be able to do all these things that everyone else is doing. You want to obviously experience the best in life. You want to go to the best parties. You want to eat at the best restaurants. Those experiences are not a bad thing in themselves.
But those are the only experiences people are sharing.
But that's how social media is structured.
Yeah,
I mean, even when you look at Facebook and even their metrics and how they go about running Facebook, it's very much supposed to show only the good in life. And so unfortunately, if maybe you're not aware of that and you go to Facebook and all your friends are happy and all the pictures, but it's all the pictures.
Promotion, marriage.
Yeah, it's literally the same thing all the time. It's just babies, marriage, proposals, graduations. I mean, everything is so
depressing,
yeah.
right?
So if you're having a bad day and you're
yeah.
like, everyone is having such a good life, what's wrong with me?
Right.
So I think maybe for me it's more about just remembering that it's not completely real. Like it's not the full picture. It's just a bit of the picture, and just being grounded. Because I have to remind myself that hey, okay, relax. Don't work yourself up. Everyone is not having a perfect life. This is just for show.
So could we say then it's not really a nightmare? It is reality. It's just life.
People are always in this constant competition. So if you see that someone has managed to do something, you also want to do the same thing,
right.
And it's unnecessary, if you ask me.
All right, and I think sometimes bringing up some very unrealistic expectations that we put on ourselves or on others, and we'll be talking about that when we come back from the break. Keep watching. All right, welcome back. You're watching Victoria's Lounge Topic Mashup Day. Now, I was on social media and saw a news report of a KCSE student who was admitted into hospital because they took a brain power boosting pill. And you're thinking, okay, we've gone to that extent to where a student feels, I have to do well here. I mean, I understand we are in a culture where educational performance is important. And how you do in school literally determines what kind of job you'll get and whatever else. But I mean, what do you make of that, just generally, of the pressure sometimes parents can put on children?
It's toxic. That kind of pressure is toxic. And we like to kid ourselves that the moment you get an A, then everything in your life is good. Then everything is set. Like education is not about passing exams, yeah? Because when I think back now to the situations where we were in our high school, it was about you get an A or you don't come back to this house. That kind of.
Exactly.
It was in very many households. It was always been like that, and that kind of thinking does not leave room for other things, yeah, because you might not be book smart, but you are good at something. Everyone is good at something.
Right.
Yeah, you might be stifling a great sportsman or a great thespian or a great poet, and because they cannot do math or calculate moles.
Right.
I mean, it's something that I have always been against, that kind of pressure. I'm like, you go do your best, and then what your best brings back is what you work with.
Right.
Because not everyone was built to get good grades. The world doesn't work like that.
Yeah, very true. I mean, and I can think back during my school days, there are all those really smart kids that you envied and thinking, how do they understand it, But, we push this thing of passing exams versus intellectual capabilities. And so students feel like talented here, but they don't really care about that. So you kind of shelve it. And I wonder, what message are we giving to the kids coming up now that if you love music, if you love to act or to design clothes, you're not less of a person because you weren't great in calculus,
Yeah. Exactly. Victoria, can I just take a minute to protest against our educational system? I think it's horrible. So I have a 7-year-old son. I went when he was 4. I was trying to find a kindergarten for him because I just moved houses. And I go to this school that is considered one of the top schools in Nairobi, and the principal, so I'm talking to the principal, and she asks me, how old is your son? I say he's 4. Can he read and write? I'm like, he can read sounds. And she's like, can you just walk in these corridors and hear the kids reading? They can even read the newspaper, and they have clean handwritings. And I was like, my child is 4. I don't care if he writes like a chicken. So and it starts at a very young age. And the thing is, it's the parents who want their kids to perform like that, and they transfer it to the teachers. So between 0 and 6 years, that's your time to develop. It's your time to learn language and socialization and negotiation. You don't need to read a newspaper. There's plenty of time for that.
The formative years. So actually they are losing out on their childhood and just being a kid because mom is thinking, no, you need to learn Mandarin at 5, you know, and you're putting this undue pressure on them. But I mean, let's shift gears a bit. Still on the unrealistic expectations, a well-known musician had actually shared about some trolls who began to discuss their life and why they weren't at a certain point after marriage. They're wondering where the children and everything. And yes, I know we live in an African society where once you get married, they're wondering where the mini yous, you know, we need to see running around. And you're literally kind of valued or evaluated on that as where are you in life? I mean, how can someone actually live their life today, and I'm saying today because of things like social media, without those outside influences and still be at peace one day? I know it's a very deep question, but is it even possible to do something like that?
I think it is possible. You just have to be self-aware, and you have to unlearn a lot of toxic things that you've learned throughout your life. So it is having to put work into yourself. I'd say that I have been under pressure. So I have faced pressure because I am at an age where people are like, where's your husband? I mean, it's about that time where, you know, are we meeting someone soon or what's happening, you know? And then I have to sort of be like, okay, if I wanted to get married, there are people that I could marry today.
Right.
To be honest.
Right.
But when I think about the kind of life I want for myself, and even in terms of marriage, what I'm looking for, then I haven't gotten to that point, or I haven't really found the person that I feel would be able to fill those shoes.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important to live for yourself and understand that it's your life. Yes, people are going to keep commenting, and it is difficult. I mean, we're human. It's difficult to not take that in. You can't just pretend you don't hear it, but it's really just being self-aware and keeping your eyes on the goal. Like, this is how I want to live my life. These are the things that matter to me. These are the things that I want to achieve, and this is the kind of life I want. So, and that's it. And it's not something I'm going to negotiate, because at the end of the day, it's my life.
And really wonder if, and that's a really good point, society sometimes sets us up to fail because you're made to feel that you've won if you get the social acceptance, you know, and that's it. So you're thinking, okay, unless I get the approval from friends, family, whoever, a boss, then my life really isn't worth it.
Well, first of all, just to interject, what is African is something that has been dynamic and has always been changing. What was African, what was considered African back in the day and this time, it's completely different. You can't put expectations on people, the same expectations you put on people in the 1950s, the kind of this expectations you're putting on people right now. Times have changed, situations have changed. I mean, we also have to change, and you also have to adapt. So, but when it comes to now people asking you about, oh, why are you not married? When you're married, why don't you have children? When you have children, why don't they go to this school and not this school?
There'll always be something.
You know, there's always be, it's societal expectations are it's such an insatiable, you know, beast.
Yeah.
If you spend your life always seeking to please the society and everything it expects from you, you'll end up I think, living a very miserable life.
Yeah, yeah.
Because at the end of the day, when you have those children, when they're telling you to have those children, they're not telling you that they're going to come help you raise that child or
Yeah.
come
Those are
pay for
your
the school
kids
fees.
that you be taking care
Yeah.
of and paying for.
When,
yeah.
when they're asking you about why you're not married, they're not telling you if they're going to come and help you when your marriage is in shambles, because there's no such thing as a perfect marriage.
Right.
You know, so if you're not, if you feel you're not prepared to do anything, then take your time. I mean, none of us is coming out of this place alive, so we might as well just enjoy our time on earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you say to the women who they fall to that pressure because they have no other choice? You're told you need to get married because you can't sustain your lifestyle, you need to have kids, you need to have a family, so get someone to take care of you. Yeah, it sounds rosy to say, get your life,
Yeah.
do what you want, and you know, it's a choice and it shouldn't be based on circumstances. But for a lot of people, they're like, listen, I'm in a predicament where this is all I have. This is my only option. And they're probably being pressured by family saying you need to do it now. I mean, how can they get out of that?
I think a lot of times it's perception, even the way you perceive your situation. So
Yeah.
you think that now I need to get married because, you know, I don't have a well-paying job, and if I get married, I'll be able to live in Kileleshwa where my parents approve. So I think you need to, as a person, you need to sort of just take a step. Sometimes when you're in the deep of things, it can overwhelm you and you're like, oh, I have to do this, you know, there's no other thing that I can do. But if you take a step back, you'll realize, no, actually, I live on, you know, wherever, and I'll be fine. And even if my parents are not very happy with it, I'm the
Yeah.
one who's living there. And can I even just talk about church?
Yeah.
I'm Catholic, so I'm raised Catholic, and there's no single Sunday in church where the priest doesn't say, wale hawajafunga ndoa kanisani.
Wow.
Yes.
That is a goal.
Yes.
Hashtag goals. Okay.
So it's a pressure, and you know the way the Catholic Church is structured is, if you're a proper Catholic,
Yeah.
you receive the Holy Communion, and you have sinned. If you have sinned, you don't receive the Holy Communion. So if you have not funga ndoa kanisani, you are so not receiving the Holy Communion. So it's like every Sunday, then you're there, and then the priest says it, and like you're like, yo, you have to get married. And I mean, it would be really great if church leaders stopped putting this pressure on people, because then when your marriage is falling apart, they're not
Because
going
you
to
got
be
in
able
for
to
the
help
wrong
you. Yeah,
reasons,
they're
yeah.
not going to. You got in because you wanted the church to approve of you, but then when you're having problems in there, no one is going to take you out of that situation but yourself.
And that's a good point. I wonder on the flip side if sometimes we will fall to that pressure because you don't know what you want for your life at times.
true.
You know, that you're like, well, after all, I guess this is what people do, so let me just do it, which is also just as dangerous.
There's a limitation of imagination because this is how things have always been done. People are born, people go to school or learn something, and
Yeah.
then people get married, and then they have children, and then they die. So because that's how things have been done, it seems that if you go out of that, then you're doing something wrong. So we haven't gotten to the point where we're sort of pushing ourselves to imagine something different. So that's why I guess there's a lot of backlash when you dare to be different. When you say, actually, I don't want to get married, people think there's something wrong with you. Or I don't want to have children. Me and my husband are married, but we have decided we don't want to have children. Why would you do that? You know, that's wrong.
Yeah.
But why is it wrong? You know, I think
Yeah.
it's just sort of thinking of, can people live lives in a different way than we have thought before? And then what is wrong with them living their lives that way? And then also, can we mind our business? Can we actually live our lives and not have to tell people
But
how
you know,
to live
people will
theirs?
say about the minding business part is, well, don't post your life on social media then, because now I know everything about
And
you.
follow me. You don't have to follow me. You don't have to be my friend on Facebook. I feel
Yeah.
like people are so invested in telling people how to live their lives instead of just living their own lives. I don't think there's anything, you know, as long as someone is not, say, breaking the law or doing something which, you know, like killing someone or stuff like that, I don't see what is wrong with people living their lives and being happy. Because for me, I think in this life, you should be striving to be as happy as you can be. So if I see someone is single and they're honestly happy, why am I so
Like there has to be
invested?
something wrong. You have to be lonely. Just
Yeah.
go find someone, you
And
know.
are you so pretty and single? How is it possible that you're this
Oh,
pretty
I
and
hate that
single?
So it's a
question.
lack of imagination that we actually can't imagine that people can be happy living their lives in a way that we are not, we don't approve, or we wouldn't live like that.
Right. And then where do people kind of get the sense that they have a right to have a say? Now, I understand if you are a public figure, someone who's out there and, you pretty much live a public life, people feel, yeah, I can have an opinion on how they live their lives. But just generally on the normal person, where do you get the gall to come
Yeah.
and actually make demands on how I should live my life? I wonder how people just kind of compute that in their minds.
I don't know about anyone else, but for me, when I came into this world, I wasn't given a manual with a script that this is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah, everyone is supposed to live their life however they feel fit, so long as it doesn't affect anyone else, like negatively. I mean, if you're going to, you'll find many people who are telling you to live your life a particular way are not even living the kind of life they're
Sure,
asking
they're projecting
you to.
their own or trying to live
So
vicariously through
you find people who are who want to live their lives vicariously through you. Yeah, I'm like, just chill, just be yourself, be your own person, and I'll be mine. If I don't hurt you, then I mean, you have no business telling me.
Hashtag truth, and I hope people watching actually take that to heart. Let's take a short break here on Victoria's Lounge. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. You're watching Victoria's Lounge. Now, recently the world witnessed the unimaginable. I think for a lot of the world, we didn't expect Donald J. Trump to become the next president of the United States. And now people are wondering, so who cares? This is not Kenya. This is not even anywhere in Africa. Why should we care? But one of our fellow Africans, Trevor Noah, had said this. And we know he hosts the Daily Show, but he said, a lot of the world is disappointed in America because America is that beacon, is that lighthouse, that bastion of democracy. Do we still view the US that way?
Well, when I wanted to when I was growing up, I always wanted to go to America. I still wish I could go to America. That is if Trump will let me in. But that's because America has always sold itself to be this, knight in shining armor of the world. When they talk about spreading democracy and going to the Middle East, but America has had its problems.
Right.
Civil liberties, it's a fight that goes on up to date.
True.
Black Lives
Black Lives
Matter
Matter,
is
yeah.
a thing that is huge in America. So America is not the beacon of democracy, please.
So now, or is it, because at a point
It has
it
not
used to be.
always been the beacon of democracy.
Okay.
Maybe white democracy, but not for everyone. So when I saw Trump winning the election, I was just like, America has done what is good for America. It's the majority of Americans, they have issues, with issues with immigration and,
Right.
and reproductive health, and that is why they voted for Donald Trump. Yeah. They might not come out and say it, but it's something that they're thinking it. So when you go when you go to your ballot box and to make your choice, that's when you're making the statement you've always wanted to make, but you are probably shut down, that you want this kind of a country.
I mean, what was so funny, and those are now, of course, the nationalists, and that was funny because it was coming off the back of Brexit, where the nationalists there were saying we want to take back the UK and at least its identity, the British identity. Yeah. But what's hilarious is people saying, how could they vote in someone like Trump? And I remember seeing a lot of memes of people saying, well, Trump is like a lot of African leaders. You've been dealing with Trumps for God knows how long, So, I mean, what do you make of his election and what that means generally?
First of all, can I just say, so some people are talking about if Bernie Sanders was the Democrat candidate, he could have won. And I felt like that was a slap in my face as a woman, because I thought America will do anything not to elect a woman. They will elect the most ridiculous candidate to make sure a woman does not take that seat. But then I also questioned America's electoral system and how democratic it is, because Clinton is leading in the popular vote by about 700,000. I mean, that's popular enough to me.
Right.
Why isn't she president? But I mean, I think this whole election fiasco has exposed the underbelly of America.
Yeah. I mean, and you've said it right. It's what actually had been brewing. We witnessed, like you said, things like police brutality on black men, hence Black Lives Matter. Of course, the need to kind of ship out immigrants, mainly from Latin America and Mexico, who had literally infiltrated, but were doing jobs that a lot of Americans didn't want to do. Do you feel, Wende, that this move kind of depreciates the American brand?
I was surprised that Hillary didn't win because I thought she would, but at the same time, I wasn't really surprised that majority of white people voted for Trump, because again, it's the same thing as Brexit, where there's a lot of make America great again. With the recession and all the issues that have been going on in the States, there's always, in any country that, you know, where they're having financial difficulties, it's people tend to sort of try and look inwards and for national pride or whatever. And even though they are wrong, because immigrants didn't cause the financial crisis, you know, but they have to look for someone to blame. That is the way it will be. But for me, I kind of feel that it's good for America, because maybe they need to sort of go through this so that they can appreciate what they have, or what they had rather, what they had. And then also maybe for the rest of the world, we can also sort of turn our eyes onto ourselves, because I think a lot of the times we sort of wait for America to sort of save us and to set the tone and to do all these things. And maybe, especially here in Kenya, maybe we need to sort of start setting the tone for ourselves, instead of looking for a beacon, you know, of democracy elsewhere. Let's start concentrating on our own country and thinking about, okay, how can we sort of do our own thing? Is it a must that we must wait for America to tell us what to do?
No, exactly. He's there. What does his presidency mean for Africa in terms of, I mean, because people are thinking, oh, okay, so a lot of the programs that we may have had in place would suffer. Things like AGOA agreements for trade, USAID, and some of the programs that they have going on the ground, we'll start to feel that impact, because we don't know whether that's going to be on their agenda or not. We don't know whether Africa is on the Trump administration's agenda or not, you know. And should we care? On top of that, should we care?
When I look at Trump and I look at his entire campaign and how he has treated people who are not like him, I don't feel so much hope about there being a good relationship between USA and my country.
And a lot of people are doing that based off perception because of how he campaigned.
Yeah, he has never been a public officer, so he has never influenced policy, but he campaigned and promised that his campaign was premised on the fact that he wants to, you know, I don't know, make America great again by removing immigrants and that kind of things. So I don't know how his relationships are going to work. But that said, he's going to be the president, but he has, every government or every system has checks and balances. So we can only hope that these checks and balances are going to do their work, so that he does not just make proclamations and they happen. You know.
I mean, I think also the biggest fear for a lot of people around the world is, again, that whole, it's a perception thing. It really is. What his presidency represents so far is what people saw on the campaign trail. And they feel, okay, will that mean that now we'll take cues from how America has kind of dealt with their issues, be it race or anything else, the immigrant issue, that's how we should kind of deal with our issues. I remember someone had sent a question in asking, well, what if we had refugees from Dadaab move into the urban areas? Would we have a problem with that? Would we want to now kind of take our country back, in quotes? What would our sentiments be? Because we've seen that now more or less happen in the US and the UK, and possibly people were saying in France with Marine Le Pen, but what does it mean?
America has been known to bully other nations into doing what they want by threatening sanctions or threatening whatever action, hoping that our leaders, and especially African leaders, will just come like stand strong and come together when they need to stand up against that. Because I mean, just because the big brother is now potentially going to do all these evil things doesn't mean we have to do it as well.
Yeah.
And we could look to partner with other governments. We could look eastward, or we could look,
Which we have.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and when you talk about maybe the African agenda, because people are saying throughout the campaign trail, we never really heard what he thought about Africa. Of course, there was a lot of fake news and things that he had said, but they weren't true. But really, he hasn't said much, which is that a point of concern for Africa that you're not even on the radar. So forget even trying to have maybe negative implications from his election. You're not even a talking point.
I think Trump probably doesn't know much about Africa. No, serious. I don't think he actually knows much about Africa.
Apart from saying that Obama was born in Kenya.
But I don't think he really knows much about Africa. But I think I agree with what Magunga said, that I think the Trump presidency will really test American systems to see if they actually work, or are they based, like, you do need the leader to to sort of lead, or do the systems themselves in place work. And then also, I don't think America is going to change their foreign policy drastically, because I think at the end of the day they still do want to be a superpower, and how you maintain that is very much being everywhere, sort of seeping into everything. And so I don't think they're going to necessarily neglect Africa and just be like, we're out, we're pulling out, we're not going to have any programs. No, because then you have no influence here, and then that leaves a vacuum for their competitors to be here. And so I don't really think that they're going to necessarily completely pull out, but also at the same time I'm very interested to see if he will be as interested maybe in creating new things, or he'll just maybe keep whatever is in place, because I mean Obama did
be a
have,
businessman.
have all these other things,
He did.
like new programs and stuff. So it'd be interesting to see what that means for Africa. And then especially like we have now the visa thing for 5, it's not going to be scrapped. The American
till Jan 2017 after inauguration, like, is this thing going to stick?
And so I'm actually really interested to see if they're going to go back on things, but I don't know. I'd be surprised if they did, because then that's starting your presidency on such a negative tone. So I kind of feel, even from what he's been doing since he became the president-elect, he's sort of been trying to sort of tone down his rhetoric.
You're wondering, which Trump is this?
Exactly. So I think maybe there may be a chance that maybe this was, in as much as, yes, of course, we cannot forget all the things he said, because you said those things. So you can't say that it was just campaign talk. A part of you must believe those things that you said, but also at the same time, he is now the president. So he can't
be the same Trump who's on the campaign
trail. He has to try and unite people.
Leader of the free world.
Trump has been disappointing us ever since he popped up. He
except himself, because he's been winning.
So like when he vied, we thought, this guy will not fight. This guy won't make it through the primaries. This guy won't make it through the nominations. This guy won't be president. He has just been disappointing us. Let's just hope that he keeps on disappointing us and become actually a good president.
A good president, exactly. But yes, let's wait and see. We can only hope, as Obama told us 8 years ago. All right, that does it for Victoria's Lounge. Thanks for watching. Thank you to the Golden Tulip Hotel for hosting us. Keep the conversation going on social media. Let's do this again next week, 8 p.m. right here on NTV.
Take selfies, yes.
Process of writing is tough. Hey, it's gone off.
Your name has gone off?
Yeah, just now.
Right, left to release.
Yeah, unrealistic face.